Alright, hi everybody. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, happy Tuesday. What a beautiful day for another session of programming. Working on more monster AI today. So, in the background, I figured out two things yesterday. One, I figured out why these tests weren't appearing. So apparently, when we switch between branches, occasionally we're going to run into an issue where it can't find the run settings file, which admittedly, that's what the error said, right? It couldn't find run settings, and we're like, oh, why couldn't it find run settings? And even though I have this option here under configure run settings that's checked, auto detect run settings files, I have to actually select this and get it to populate because it couldn't recognize it for whatever reason, and who knows why that is, but it couldn't find it, so I had to manually go in and specify it. And one thing to know for the future is that we can actually see that it appears as an option down here as one of the run settings. So in the future, if we're not seeing this, then we know the test adapter is not loaded. So it's just something to keep in mind going forward to make sure that we don't run into this issue again. So that's to get testing working. Testing's working great now. No other issues. We got that blocking test that we implemented yesterday working. And then I also went ahead and tested Battlecry stuff. So for Battlecry stuff, yesterday, you all might recall we were trying to get the Battlecry for warriors to run for monsters and players. So this was the code. And basically, there were two issues. The first issue was in here, we had to add parentheses around these because it had a ternary operator, and the ternary operator has a lower precedence than ampersand ampersand, the and comparison. So therefore, our logic was screwed up. It has this and this symbol both have lower comparison. So because of that, we had issues. Adding parentheses around these macros solves all of that. Hi there, Kyle and Ayush. Nice to see you both. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you all again. Yes, so that's kind of to catch things up. Additionally, we renamed this variable inside this filter lambda function from E to filtered end because our config macros assume a variable E, and to get the correct variable coming out, the user of the action or spell has to be the entity derived from the original E passed in. So we can't override that. So we can't use the same E. So I just changed it to something more descriptive. This is filtered entity. All right, so moving on from there, we're going to go ahead and work on the ground slime ability today. So the ground slime ability is a little interesting because all we do for the player is we run the spin function. And the spin function goes ahead and sets the state of the player to be spinning, and then there's a spin attack timer, a spin speed, and a spin angle, and this all kind of just happens. So presumably we would have to implement this, but for monsters as well, in order to get to work. So basically we're going to be replicating the spin functionality that comes with this whole system. So the first thing I'm going to do actually is I'm going to go back to the Warrior and Thief AI code, and I'm going to add a new state, a new phase, because essentially it's just a fixed state inside the AI code. If we're running this state, we're not doing anything else. So we can add a new case specifically for the spin state, and inside of here, we will force it to move towards the player. Like, we do have to do movement code eventually, but presumably we will be moving towards the player. So we will call m run strategy, and we will be calling move towards. Or is it run towards? Run towards? Yes. So it's called run towards, like so. And that'll just move it towards whatever its target is. It looks like it needs to be an actual monster strategy enum. Oh, that's right, we did change that. So, monster strategy, run towards. That way we can't put any invalid variables anyways. And at the same time, we're going to go ahead and set our target location that we're moving towards. So by setting this target variable, we are telling it we want to go towards that position. So we'll do game get player to fix that. Also, I need to turn down the heat because it's really hot in here, so I'll be right back. Thank you, Lucian, and welcome. I'll be in one moment. Alright, we're good to go now. Sorry about that. So, we have to set this to get pause, get the player's position. Yeah, I just need to turn the AC on. I'm dying over here. Okay, so we get to add all the spin update code inside of here. We just have to trigger it, right? So we're gonna go back to Warrior now, and essentially we'll just make an entity function that does spin regardless of which entity it is. And we do have to change what the input variable is. So instead of _f just for players, we're now going to do config _f. And I had caps lock on while holding shift. I seem to do that a lot. Like, I forget that I'm holding the shift key at the same time that I turn on caps lock, and I end up being counterproductive. Seems like a fun coding session. Yes, today should be pretty fun. Just working on more stuff. Hi there, Plasticky. Oh my gosh, good to see you. It's your man. It's your man right here. Oh, congrats. Good to hear. Yeah, we just started coding for the day. Alright, so we have to implement the spin function for entities. So we're going to go to entity.h and we're going to add in a spin function. And I believe it's just void. Yeah, we don't really do anything special. We just use void. And it's going to be called spin. It's going to be non-const because it does modify the state of the object. And then in here, we're going to do void. And it's just called spin. And it's going to call both spin functions for both objects. At least, in theory, it should. We'll go ahead and implement spin for monsters as well, which we'll just copy and paste from player. Stop stealing my plushies. I like your plushies. Wait a second. I bought that for you. That's not yours. I gave it to you though. Okay, anyway. Monster. And go down here. And we are going to change this to monster. Spin. Oh god. Why is this being terrible? What just happened? It just typed, like my cursor was moving and it was retyping everywhere I clicked. God, that's awful. Okay, then we have to go to the header file. Something's going on with Visual Studio. It's being really slow right now. I think it's trying to catch up on things. Let me go ahead and I'm just gonna hit, for my sake, because this looks like it's being pretty bad right now. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit run build insights on, wait, build full program database file for solution. So my guess is I haven't been running this all day. IntelliSense has to do some cleanup, so it's gonna be doing that in the background, and it's gonna be a little slow for a minute, but then we'll have full database specified, and they'll make sure that it's not like, we're not gonna have mid coding session slowdowns. So I'm just gonna give it a minute. It takes a little while because it's a huge project. It's like, I promise I didn't break anything. Yeah, it's a huge project, so naturally it takes a minute. But yeah, looks like we are good to go. Just give myself a drink. Little cutie drink. Okay, so I'm gonna go up to, let's see. So let's go up to get transparency and we'll put it right next to it. So get transparency. And we'll just put it right below. This is a void spin. And it's non-const. And then we have to modify these. So we're not going to control state here. Hi there, Cratone. Good to see you again. The entity count has started. Yes, I get to say the word entity a lot today. So, yeah. We have to make these 3 local variables. They don't exist yet. Now, what we could do is we could put them in the monster variables. I kind of like that more, only because it's more like... It fits better with the paradigm of the strategies already having custom variables, because this is so specific, right? This is like, I'm only going to be using these in this particular place. So it's like, do I really care to have these as variables in here? I want to say, I want to say no. So let's go ahead and make it so spin, all it really does is set the state, right? So the state control should be ideally inside of here, not in, or excuse me, in here, not out here. Like, we're not going to change the state like that. So let's go ahead and inside of spin, still set the state, but we're doing m.set phase, or we're already in monsters, so set phase, right? And we'll set the phase. So we don't actually have the, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say get current strategy, or current strategy, maybe it's just strategy. There it is, get strategy name, so that gets the current strategy, default strategy, and then the phase. So interestingly, when we do this, the phases are not like it doesn't know about this. This is local to a static function. So there's no way for us to know that this enum exists here. So I'm just gonna do this for the sake of having that there and just saying, so what I typically do is I just put a little note here that says, note if this, or even better, we do it on the other side, because we're mostly going to be modifying AI code on this end, right? So we can put a little note at the end of this enum. If this enum is modified, please update monster spin as it has a dependency on this enum's values. And that should be all we have to do there. We could also just store this particular state inside of a variable itself, and maybe that would actually work better. Then I wouldn't have to actually do the keep manual track, which we want to keep code as low maintenance as possible. We should try to be as dumb as possible about our code. We shouldn't have to make assumptions everywhere whenever we're working on code. That is ideal. Because the project is so big, I'm not going to remember that this is a thing, or I'm going to ignore the comment, right? Comments are very easy to ignore. It's very easy to not read them all the time. So if we can just remove the manual step, that is ideal, right? So what we can do is we can go to monster attribute, and we're going to add a new monster attribute here. These are just dynamically defined or arbitrarily defined names that lets us store it inside of a standard any map, any values we want. So we can use these in any way. All the enum is doing is providing us with a user-friendly name for when we're programming. So in this case, we can just call this the spin state slot. And I can be even more specific and call it the enum slot. That way I know we're specifically storing the enum slot's like value in that place. And that way we can just store that on init. So regardless of what we do to this enum in the future, when we recompile the code, our monster will know via a variable. I'm just going to set it as an integer. This is how you set up a monster attribute that we defined prior. Also, maybe I should restart Visual Studio. I think it's having a stroke. And then we just go ahead. Okay. Are we good? I guess we're good now. Yeah, my computer decided to give up, so apologies for the technical difficulties. But we're back. God, that was a mess. Okay, so let me try to get my head back to where we just were. So we were working on this attribute thing. Okay, so essentially we made a new attribute that's going to hold the phase of the spin state of this monster. Yeah, don't we love technical difficulties? Thank you. Yeah, apologies for that. It just kind of happened out of the blue. Like my computer was like, yeah, not feeling it today. Also, it's not supposed to be Slotto? Why is it Slotto? That's funny. I don't know where the O came from. But anyways, so this is how we specify a custom attribute. And we're actually going to set it directly to the value of spin here. So imagine in the future we change maybe like the order of the enums or whatever. Not only will it be, will it change what the spin phase would be in here, or not here, but in here, right? But also it's just going to mess with everything else if we don't update it. So it's better that we actually go ahead and assign it to this like custom monster attribute, and then just say config int directly on it. I think we can use the direct function, which I think is underscore config. Let me see. Do we have like config? It might be like config integer. Let me see. Config. Get in. Okay, it's underscore get int. Right. Okay, so that's what we would specify instead. So underscore get int, which is not what? That's not visible either? I'm so confused right now. Okay, let me look. Is this just like some static function or something that I'm imagining? This is get int. Okay, let's get int here, which is data get. Okay, that's not what I'm looking for though. I'm looking for the monster one. So it didn't even get me to the correct. Okay, get int. It's dot get int no underscore. I don't know what I was looking at then. So get int, we have to pass in the attribute. Okay, so attribute is spin states enum slot, like so. Cool. So we do that, and that gives us access to the what the spin state phase is supposed to be, and then we just go ahead and set that value directly. Then we have to adjust for these variables. So we're gonna again make like some variables to represent these things. These are all going to be, I think, duration, speed, and angle. So they can all be floats. So we're just going to say get float on all these guys. And it should be a direct reference to whatever these are. Like, yeah, it returns a reference. So you can modify these variables, the values of these variables directly. At least you should be able to. So let's go ahead and make attributes that kind of tie into this. I think we should be able to use the shorthand A. Yeah, the shorthand A does... It looks like it's a different kind of A, though. Oh, never mind. It works. So, yeah. Hi. Hello, Axorus. Welcome to the stream. Good to see you. And let's just go ahead and make all these caps. Can I just do that via, like, a find and replace? Like, do, like, a... Well, there's preserve case, but we can't, like, make them all caps. Oh, well. I guess I'll just retype them out. Spin... attack timer, and then we have spin speed, and then finally we have spin angle. And I did not mean to open a search. I don't know what the heck is going on. Okay, so we have to make all of these attributes. They're just going to be enums that we can add inside of monster attributes header. So just add these guys right here. Do one of these. Have you tried the new reflection stuff in GCC 16? I have not. I mean, I guess I just don't have a use for them yet, but maybe someday we can toy around with them. That is That is like too... Despite my project having bleeding edge stuff, I'm not that bleeding edge. So, yeah. I generally don't touch things until I actually need them, or I just want to experiment, so maybe we'll do some experimentation one day. I can't imagine a scenario where I would want reflection for this project, because it's a game, right? There's not really a reason for me to use reflection. But who knows, maybe I can make, like, error messages more verbose or something. That might be a thing. Maybe some dynamic programming could be done with it. There's definitely some creative things that could be done with it, but you're gonna have to explore and see what the API looks like. Yeah, I can't think of too many things off of my head right now that I would just use, because we're in the middle of, like, a game coding grind, so, like, don't really have time to do experimenting right now. And I mentioned that I don't ever have, like, a time limit. I'm never pressured or whatever, but yeah, I do have, like, goals and objectives, so playing with reflection right now, while nice, I don't think is useful in this scenario. I found reflection very useful if you want to make a game editor with member variables. Oh my gosh, that's actually smart. Yes. That would be a nice use, actually. Like, imagine if we can go into, like, in-game, not out-of-game, just go to, like, make a map editor or something and be like, okay, click this, like, monster, set attributes or whatever. And, like, it could read in all the variables and stuff. That would actually be cool. And again, it might be useful for, like, more useful error debugging as well, because you actually, the C++ could actually be aware of, like, what member variables are within a class or member functions, right? So I feel like that could be useful as well. We'll see. Anyway, I have these all set up, so now I'm going to go... Wait, what are we missing? Oh, this has arguments. I think I ignored the fact this had arguments. I didn't even realize this whole time. So it has a duration and a spin speed, which we have to apply to the entity version as well. So just go ahead and pass those in. And then both player and monster should have the same function, so this should work. This is non-const, and yeah, match the declaration, and we should be okay. So are we good? This is missing a curly brace. We incompatible with spin. I think we're good. IntelliSense is doing its slow thing, but we're caught up. Cool. So with that, we can go back to our warrior ground slam ability. We're already calling spin, so it will choose between the monsters or the players, and then the iframe time. So we are able to set monsters iframes, I believe. Yeah. So we just have to call whether it's like for the player or for the monster instead. And we're going to do one of these. It's now going to be config_f. And that will grab the correct configuration variable based on which entity calls this function. And then all we have to do finally is actually implement the spin state. So the way this is going to work is if we go look at how this is implemented for the player, it should be in its update function. Change that, please. Yeah, right here, we can see that during the time we're waiting for the spin to finish, like, the spin angle is going to be changing. So we're basically just going to implement that directly. We just say monster float attribute spin angle. We go ahead and increment that by the spin speed multiplied by FELAPS time. And I do think FELAPS time is not passed, so game get elapsed time. So that works out. And then basically the Z is determined by how fast we are spinning. There's also these two variables, and they're static floats, which is interesting. Let me see what, okay, so they're actually const static floats. if we want to go a step further. They're just hard-coded variables. So warrior class was the very first class ever implemented, right? So these, I assume this variable has existed since that time, and we never converted it to config. Now, since it is a static variable, that means it has to be... We cannot assign it unless we do it in like an initialize function. So we could move the ground slam spin time to the warrior's configuration file, but then we have to also adjust how we use it in the code, which right now... So we can just get rid of this variable, if I'm being for real. We can just say ground slam spin time. It's actually right here. Do we just not use this variable, like, ever? Let me see. That's interesting, right? Because we just said that that variable is used, but what does spin do? Spin time. So attack timer's duration, is not the same as the ground slam time? So when we call spin in here, we use ground slam spin time. So we should just be using the config variable directly from here. I must have just forgotten this was a thing and didn't change it. So I probably just copy pasted old code, and this has been hard coded for forever. So let's just go ahead and now set it as the config variable for warrior ability 2 spin time. And it will use that instead. And then we can get rid of the static const variable, whatever, in here, and the declaration for it. And that just gets rid of a random variable that we've had for who knows how long, since the beginning of time, right? And then we just have to bring spin time into the warrior and thief monster strategy. We can just go ahead and put it right down here. We're gonna have to bring in all the other stuff too, so I might as well do that now, because I know we're going to crash if we don't bring these guys in. I think that's all we're gonna need. Maybe the cooldown as well. So we'll bring in... Oh, can I multi-select properly? There we go. Just like this. And then all these guys are gonna be prefixed with warrior.ability2. Oh god. I have to deselect some of these guys. Like so. So warrior.ability2. Okay. So that should be good. Just double checking. And then it should be able to reference those appropriately based on whether it's a monster or a player. So now we're back in spin. And at least for a monster, we need to now set the spin, like we can go back to that update loop now and do the rest, right? So we can go to back to where we searched for this thing, spin underscore attack timer. This was the implementation of it. We can pretty much continue from here. So as long as spin attack timer is greater than 0, we're going to be doing this, and if it ends, of course, we're done with this phase, so then we can go back to a different phase. So we'll just call set phase to back to a run, which is where we were at before. So spin attack timer is another monster attribute that we've specified. So spin attack timer, that's angle. And then we also do this for the other variables here and here and here. And then instead of ground slam spin time, we actually have to make a new attribute for that, because these would have to read from the config. Maybe we can actually just go ahead and do that then. Let me think. Yeah, because it's stored as an attribute in here, so I would even argue, like, we're just copying variables, right? Like, we're just setting spin speed to spin speed and attack timer to duration. Like, why are we passing them in if they are just part of the config? I guess that's the weird part, right? Like, what if we just got rid of these? Like, this could be clearly, like, fixed a little bit. There's a lot of redundant stuff in here, probably just from me programming it a long time ago. So let's see if we can actually clean this up a little bit. So instead of doing this, we're actually going to call config float, which lets us grab directly from the configuration file, and we can just grab it directly here. So this was originally the spin attack timer, so we're just gonna go ahead and use that. Spin, it was spin time for the spin attack timer. Oh no, but this has to be stored, right? Because this is the actual timer, so this is the one that I don't change. But the others that are we're just passing in the variable, we like speed, we do have to keep. Okay, that makes more sense. Speed, because speed is just directly in the configuration file. Spin attack timer is what we have to set initially when we cast it. So we call spin, and then we set it right here to... So basically what we had before, spin attack timer becomes equal to that configuration variable. So it was config float. Come on, you can do it. You can do it, IntelliSense. I believe in you. God, this is terrible. Okay. So spin attack timer, warrior ability 2, spin time. Okay. So we at least have to set that initially to get it going. Visual Studio is just giving up right now. It's just like, I'm done. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm done. Oh, it's get float, not config float. But yes. Get float. No, that's for an attribute. For configuration, we have to do... It should be like... It should actually be config float. But we have to do something special. I forget exactly. Let's see. Because I think it does like underscore get float or something. It does like some kind of internal function that is specific here. Let me see. Get float. Is that for... That's for strategy, so that will get it based on... Okay, so underscore get float. It's under strategy though, so it's under the monster strategy class, which is why we can't access it. So we do monster... So I was just looking at the wrong class. Strategy. It's all caps. Get float. And then we have to specify these guys. Like, it has a couple parameters, right? It has like monster. So this instance, it has I think the fate or the current strategy. Param and strategy. So yes, we just say get strategy name and should be able to get it that way. Yes. Oh yeah, Kyle, I think you asked me a question earlier. Was it like, this is I think you asked what Visual Studio version this was. I'm using Visual Studio 2026, the insider version. You can see in the upper right, it just says insiders. So yeah. I switched to it a little while back because I was hoping to use the code coverage feature and it never worked, so I'm just like, oh. And I've just kind of stuck with it. It's been fine. I'm basically test driving it. But yeah. Let's see here. So I decided to switch to the config variable for this. And then over here, we have spin attack timer, which we're still using, by the way, because that needs to decrement over time. The spin angle increments over time, but the spin attack timer decrements per frame. So that's how we reduce it. I might just do like a compound statement here. Let me think. Yeah, let's just do that. That I think that's cleaner in my eyes, only because I don't want to separate it and then be like, well, where's it counting down? Is it counting down somewhere else? Like, because typically when I do countdowns for monsters, I put them like outside here, but this is very like local, so I'd rather just keep it here and count down the timer at the same time. So I went ahead and did that. Oh, I got a cool little idea I want to try later. I'm just gonna write a little note for myself. We're gonna come back to it in a little bit, but spaceship operator. I had an idea for it. I don't really have usually a use for spaceship operator, but I thought of a cool one because we came up with this, a problem yesterday that I was thinking about. Like, I wanted a util function that checked if a variable was between, like, a range of numbers, right? And then I was thinking, what if we used the spaceship operator for that? So the syntax might look something like this. And you specify a set, or, excuse me, like a tuple? No, a pair of two items, and it returns true or false if this value is between these values. So that was my, like, well, if I get rid of this. That was my idea. Like, I feel like that'll be a cool use for the spaceship operator, considering I don't actually use the spaceship operator for what it's intended for. Like, I've never found a use for it. So that might be a cool syntactic sugar use for it, if we can implement it. I think that'll be fun. So I might try that later. Anyway, just an idea that I've been brewing in my head. So back over here, we have, so spin speed is no longer an attribute. Instead, we're just going to grab from the config value directly. So we do config float. It's going to be warrior dot ability 2 dot, I think it's just spin here. It's got like a shortened thing. Spin speed, SPD, multiplied by FELAPS time. And then ground slam spin time becomes spin time, so we can just replace those with that. Spin time. Yeah, because it's just doing math based on the total amount of spin time it's supposed to be in the air for. And this is a sine wave. I also noticed it has a multiply by 3.3, which I think is just the period, right? So it's like, no, it's the amplitude of the sine wave? No, this is the amplitude. What is this for? This has to be the period, right? Like, this is like, if it's 3.3 and we're only taking like the front curve, it should take 1.65 seconds to complete the front of the arc of a sine wave. And then we do spin time minus the attack timer, which is just like, so originally we set the attack timer to the 0.6, and then this is the original spin time, so 0.6 minus whatever is a ratio to spin time. Why do we multiply it by 3.3 then? That's kind of strange, isn't it? Like, I'm pretty sure that is the... Oh, I haven't been here in a minute. Where's the graphing? Where's the graphing tool? I forget what it's called. Oh, Desmos, that's what it's called. So, I think modifying it impacts the... Where's my slider? Can I guess? Slider? Isn't this supposed to show up with like a slider? Maybe I use like A or something? Oh wait, I do... Yeah, there it is. Okay. So if we do that... Where's my... Where'd it go? Oh, how about AX? There we go. Yeah, so it affects the period, which... Oh, because it's doubled. Okay, because I was wondering why we did 3.3. Well, okay, so even if our variable was 3.3, right? It's... Oh, it's shrinking it? It's not growing it? Wait. Yeah, it's shrinking it. So it's shrinking it by... So what does that mean? It's like dividing the original period by 3.3? So instead of it being pi, the period... Oh, is that what the significance of this number is? It's close to pi? So that means like... Isn't this supposed to just be pi then? Like when I do this then to get to normalize the period to be every 1 second or every 2 seconds? Why did I use 3.3 of all numbers? Did I just choose what looked good by happen chance and didn't realize I was trying to use pi here? Like that's what I think happened, because back then I probably like I wasn't really thinking about like, oh, what is the significance of this number? And I just got really close to pi and I'm like, oh, that looks good enough. That's probably what happened. I think we wanted pi there. So that's hilarious. Okay, so it's pi. So we would do the same in this code too. Like, that's my only guess. Like, I'm now curious. When did we last modify this line of code? Let's do a git blame. It will take a minute because this probably goes pretty far back, but in the meantime, over here, let's do... Oh, I think it populated already. What line is this supposed to be? And it was... Let me look for the 3.3. Because it's the only 3.3. Oh, it's going further back. It hasn't found it yet. Whenever that committed. November 21st, 2023. Oh, I guess it just doesn't show up. Like the date, but 2023 was, so that was almost 3 years ago. Like I said, the project has been around for a long time, so this is in like the infancy of it when this line of code got implemented. So yeah, that's... Oh, it shows up when I do... What? That's kind of funny. It doesn't show what the date of the current lines of commit you're interested in is, selection-wise. I wonder if that's a mistake. Like, what if I accidentally set the text color of the selected item? That's probably what I did. You just make a mental note for later. This is just an ID thing. Fix coloring of selected git blame items. This is probably a theme, a styling issue. Anyway, yeah, that was just fun to look at, some history. So yeah, my guess is we intended to use pi there. That's the only thing that makes sense for like the curve of this thing, right? I'm like 3.3 is very close to pi, which we're trying to normalize into seconds. So yeah, technically that means this whole time the animation for Ground Slam has been slightly incorrect. Like, it's been running faster than it should have. Unless that was intended. What if we intended for the player to go a little into the ground before being shot back up to its normal position? Was that a design decision? I don't know. It's been 3 years. How am I supposed to know that? But anyways, to me it looks like an error, so I'm gonna try pi first, and if it looks funny, we'll change it again. Alright, so trying to refocus here. Let's put this back over here. And let's try to finish this up so we can do some compiling. So Z has to be modified. Preferably, I think using sed if we can, versus setting the member variable directly. I don't think there are any side effects, but it doesn't hurt to use the actual member function if we've got it. And then I wouldn't say complex, just more like fascinating, exploring like history, right? That's always fun. I need to set this like so. Oh, this is actually the decrement of it. It's actually built into here. I'm going to just remove that because we also do a standard max, which isn't necessary. We just know when we're below 0, we go ahead and run set phase. So I kind of took that out by doing this line right here. Cool. So I think we're good to go to at least try it out. So we're going to have the monster now spam that attack instead. So let's just make it cast ability 2 instead of ability 1. And then before we can build, I left that theoretical change for warrior with the spaceship operator inside of here. So let's see if we could take a look at that. So I think the idea is we would have to do an override of the spaceship operator for any type T. So I would imagine this could go inside of util. And I don't know if this is possible, by the way. We're just going to try it and see what happens, right? So in here, we're just going to go with what we've always done. I'm going to put under the util namespace. We're going to make a new template function. So template class T. And we're going to call this... we're going to try to return a Boolean. I think by default... I don't know. See, the problem is I don't know if it will let me return a Boolean or if I'm going to have to return a number that's going to be either truthy or falsy. Because I might have to go that route in order to use it that way. So we'll have to see. But I'll try this first and see if it lets me do it. So operator spaceship. And I assume we're doing left and right hand side. So T, and they have to be of the same type. So do T left hand side, T right hand side. And we'll try, it looks like it's not complaining so far, other than I have to actually return something, right? Like, let me just put in sample here. Like, let's say we do ints, right? Just so we have an idea if it's going to compile or not. So it will probably complain that we haven't returned anything yet, but we do return. So, oh wait, no, the right hand side has to be a pair of the same type of values to compare against. So it'll be a pair of two T's. So that's what that should look like. And presumably these are just both const. I'll go ahead and write those in anyway. And the whole operator is const. Return left hand side is greater than or equal to right hand side first. And left hand side is less than or equal to left hand side second. Oh, this isn't a member function, so that doesn't make sense. Right hand side second. So in theory, this is what I want the spaceship operator to do for any type T. Now, will it actually work? That's another question, right? Also, this is in the util namespace, which I don't think works. Like, technically, it's a global namespace in a util namespace. But does that mean I have to call operator util spaceship operator? That wouldn't be good, right? Like, I will say though, expected expression, let me just try to force this and see what happens, right? Like if we put two floats here, will it magically work, right? Okay, so it doesn't know about it. It needs to be in the stand, it needs to, I guess, be just globally declared, so we'll try that. So let's just move this out of here and into the global namespace. And see what happens. So does this work? It's not complaining. It's just substituted random usings in there. That's funny. But that does work. It is recognizing it. So maybe we get to use spaceship operator like this. Yay. Okay, cool. I like that. So there is another error though. What am I seeing here? Oh, I think I just have extra brace. And probably extra parens because we deleted, yeah, we had a conditional here before, so there's a bunch of extra floof in here for basically no reason. It's just a return, so we do have to close that one. So close that. And what is this for? That is an open brace for the for loop. So we have to close the for loop, and then that's the statement of the for loop. That doesn't close the for loop. What do I have to close? So we have filter. Okay, that must have closed the filter, which is over here. And then we have to close the for loop afterward. So two parens. Okay, now what's this one for? This is the return statement. So it's just closed right here. Okay. So this was the closing of... No, this is supposed to be here. Okay. Then that closes filter, then this closes for loop, and then that's the statement. Okay. I got lost in a bunch of little syntax. Cool. Alright. Now we can try building and seeing what happens. Yeah. So I was like, if I'm not using a feature of C++, but then I can make use of it in another way that actually benefits me, then I'm totally down to try and do that. So I was thinking like, yeah, let's override the spaceship operator, because I don't use the spaceship operator for anything, for something we actually care about, which is comparing the... seeing if a value is between two other values in... And I think that's a good, like, to me, that's what the spaceship operator looks like. Is it less than or is it greater than? Like, is it in between, right? Because there's an equal sign in the middle. So to me, like, in my head, I'm like, it's like an in-between operator. Because I've never had I've never had to use spaceship for, like, its legitimate use. So, yeah. So it was just something I thought about today. It was like a shower thought from earlier. So yeah, I might as well look at this color thing while we're waiting. So in my IDE, I do customize like the theme, right? So we go to fonts and colors, and let's just take a quick peek because I know I changed a few of them, and one of them happened to be like probably so we're looking probably for the foreground color to be what this background color is in some kind of text, right? I probably messed up and did something like that. And it would be like the exact same color. So it's like, what color is this? What, tell me if I do custom? No. Okay, back to default, I guess. Well, tell me here. Okay, so it's 41, 44, 63. Oh, we have a fail. Ground slam spin time. Oh, there's other places it pops up, so let's fix them. Okay, so that... Okay, now that's interesting. So I was wondering if it was gonna do that, because it wasn't const, right? So there's a possibility that I initialized it somewhere. So that's fascinating, but if we're just gonna set to the config variable, why not just use the config variable from the beginning? Doesn't make sense. Okay, and get rid of that variable. Missing a semicolon? Really? Oh, we are. Yes, okay. Very good. We're missing a semicolon right there. My screen's kind of weird right now because I have this other window jutting out. Alright. So anyway, let me just actually... Yeah. Okay. So in here... It still failed. Hold on. What? Oh, there's another one? What is this one for? Oh, we never fixed this. Okay. So these are going to use the config variable now, right? So warrior dot ability to dot its spin attack, it's spin time. So spin time. And then I'm also replacing the 3.3 with pi. Like, it could be that 3.3 was a deliberate decision. It very well could have been, right? There's a very high likelihood that's probably what I was thinking in my head. Because I know, like, math-wise, I'm pretty keen about a detail like that. Like, I would have checked on Desmos, and that's probably what I did when I was making the function. And I was probably like, maybe by design, I wanted it to be a little extended. Who knows, right? But anyways, spin time should be spin attack timer. So that actually stays there. It's complaining about these two are just strings. They need to be floats. Okay. So that should be good. Let's try build now. Okay. So that's compiling. We can take a look at this now. So I'm looking for that like grayish color. If there's anything that kind of matches that. But I probably set it by accident at some point and didn't realize it. But like, what would that even be described as? Right? It's like, I don't even know what that would be described as. Like some kind of panel like selection thing. Panel selection like text. Background text, whatever. Oh. We're in unit testing. Well, I guess running unit tests isn't a bad idea, but you don't really need to do that right now. That's not necessary. Also, they're failing, I guess. Duplicate key found. Okay, that's interesting. Duplicate key found. Okay, let's just look at it from here, because essentially it's the same thing. It's just a little more readable. So let me just run this random unit test, because I accidentally compiled a unit test project. So yeah, so this is the error we're getting. It just says, let me pull this up real quick. How do I... Can I just like pull up the open test log? There we go. Okay, so it says... Also, shouldn't it be wrapped? I thought I turned on wrapping. I must have forgotten. Okay, wrap text. There we go. Better. Yeah, duplicate key found. Warrior ability 2 spin time equals 0.6. On, yeah. duplicate key, warrior dot ability 2 dot spin time. Did I already have it somewhere and I didn't notice? Spin time. Spin, oh. Wow. Right, I forgot to delete the other one. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that fixes that. I'm like, if all my tests are failing, then it's something critical, like the data file system, right? So, that makes sense. Alright, rebuild. This will take a while. And then we have to look at the ground slam effect, although I don't think it does anything. No, it does, it does. The ground slam effect, I think when spawns, checks the AoE. It's either when it spawns or very close. Also, I don't know what it's called. I think we just create it. Oh shoot, we do. Yeah, so there's this whole thing down here. Oh my god, why is this so... Why is there so much code for this? What? Ground slam visual range, ground slam range, ground slam damage. A knockback effect, checks all... Oh god, yeah, you can tell this is old code because this is how we had to use to search for enemies. Like, this code is all abstracted out now. So we could definitely update that. Knockback direction, knockback amount. Wow, I used to... Wait, what? How does this make sense? Okay, the knockback is determined by the distance and the direction from where they got hit. Okay, so that makes sense. That's why this code is here. Again, a lot of this is now abstracted out, at least should be. So we might do a rewrite of this code real quick. It's kind of bad. And then here's the effect. So this is the effect I was talking about. It's just kind of made, but the actual damaging part happens right here. So we probably want to make this more portable. One idea is to just make a new effect class and put it in there. So that's one idea. Because if we do that, then we can use the effect class in both places, keep the code all in one place, right? If we're copy pasting the code, it's like, what if I change how it works, right? Then, yeah, we're gonna have inconsistencies. Like, what if we update the effect of ground slam later, and then this monster is using, like, I've seen this in like a couple games where, like, if a monster copies a player's spell and then the player's spell gets updated by something at some point, you'll see them use the old version of the spell. And I just think that's really funny. I've always called developers lazy for doing that, so am I gonna call myself lazy for doing the same thing, right? I just think that's funny. But yeah, we can definitely do a new class for that. I think that would be fair, because I want to rewrite some of that code anyways. We have a lot more abstraction available for it now. So, time to figure out what's wrong here. We had a bad variant access, which is surprising, because that means whatever we got for here was not a... Oh, I just forgot to delete this. I left it as a to-do, right. It just lets me know, hey, I've updated it, we're good. Okay. So that was just a bad variant access, because the player wasn't creating it, the monster was. So we can at least see the monster do the whole... Well, it won't spin, because we don't have it using the spin variable to determine the graphical portion of this monster. So we still have to make that work visually, but at least we can see it go up and down, because it's going to set the Z, so there's that part. But yeah, let's make a new effect object specifically for this that handles all the checking for monsters around it and also handles the collisions. I think that would be cleaner. That way we don't have to copy paste the code into here and avoid the risk of having outdated code in the future. Oh, I wonder if that means the normal warrior is doing this too. Also, this phase never ends. Interesting. Let me see real quick. Now I'm curious. Because if that's what's happening here, then we probably accomplished the same thing on the other side, which would be absolutely hilarious. Okay, well, it works normally for the players, so we only messed up the monster code. Which, fair, probably just a typo somewhere. So let me take a look. All right, so the variable we use, spin time and spin speed, this gets multiplied by pi, which is fair. That's like the rate of rotation per second. So let me just make sure those variables are sensible. The spin speed is 14 so it's probably in degrees. So we assumed degrees per second. And then spin time is 0.6. Looking like some ninja teleporting stuff. Yeah, it turned into a ninja. We have a new ability for ninja now. Or for thief, but we can make a ninja. Okay, so spin speed and speed time look good here. They get set correctly. It also had iframes, like I wasn't able to attack it. At least I don't think I tried attacking. So let's see, here's where it... Oh, okay, so this assumed radians. It's not radians. So this is just a hidden detail that I didn't do, that I did in here. I made the assumption it was in radians, right? Oh. You know what? That's probably why the set said... Wait, hold on. No, it's inside of here, right? The spin time... The spin angle is multiplied by the spin speed. See, that doesn't make sense. But we're not interested. We're interested in Z, right? So why was the Z rotation incorrect? The variables it uses are spin max height, which is 50, multiplied by sine of spin time, which is 0.6. It's a float, minus the spin attack timer, which I guess we have to make sure we actually set, right? So we should have, due to calling e.spin. E.spin sets the attack spin timer to get float warrior ability 2 dot spin time, which is 0.6. In theory, that should have worked, right? We should probably check this in debug. And then if it did that, it should have been 0.6 minus whatever it was, divided by another 0.6. So this is mathematically sound. It was copy pasted, so it really shouldn't have varied as much as it did. It's like doing what it's doing right now. It should not have been doing that. So let's see. It also doesn't end, which is interesting, right? That also tells me a lot about how it's working. Like, if it doesn't end, then this value might be something ridiculous. Also, minus equals does have higher priority than greater than, right? Right? It should. C++. Operator precedence. Let's just double check, so we're not crazy. Because if greater than has higher precedence, something's wrong. I am not a bot. Alright, so minus equals is 16th. Uh-oh. Okay, so greater than is higher precedence by a lot. So this is not the code I intended to write. Oops. So that would explain why the timer never ends, and that probably explains why it did something funny, because the statement became... Game get elapsed time is greater than 0, return a boolean, subtract that from spin attack timer, every frame. So yeah, that definitely would have messed everything up. Definitely not the intended result. So that's fun. So we're basically subtracting 1 every single frame, and it was frame rate dependent. Dependent or independent? Independent. It was frame rate independent. Like, it didn't rely on the frame rate. It just executed as many times as there were frames. So that's funny. We love to see that. Okay, so I think it'll be fine now. Okay, much better. A little hop. And also it stopped properly. So that's good. The game looks amazing. Thank you. I hope that after 3 years I would have something that looks presentable, right? Okay, so now that that works as intended, we have to actually make the effect. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to design a new effect class. So I'm going to go under effects, under effect header, and we have to start by adding a type to our variant. So this is going to be called the ground slam effect. And then for the ground slam effect, we can go ahead and copy paste. And then we go to, I think, effect T. So I haven't had to implement a new effect since the new effect system came out. So this is also a little new to me. So I'll just copy a prior effect we've made and we'll just wing it from there. So first we'll change these to be ground slam effect. Inherited from the effect class, we're gonna need position, Z. We don't need a gravity. Let's see, what will we need? So we'll need a duration, but durations are built into effects, so that's fine. But we do have to specify it in the constructor. So we got a lifetime somewhere. Okay, we don't specify a lifetime, so I guess for fall and Fall with Shadow, there was an assumption about the lifetime, either instant or set or infinite. Image file. So there are actually two images for the ground slam, the foreground and the background. So if we want, we have to specify both, or we can hard code it, which is another option. This is not really a generic effect, so hard coding the image file would not be a bad idea here. And then we have upper level, the size, the fade out. I know we're going to modify size because there is an enchant that enhances the size of it. The fade out. We're probably going to need a knockback factor. We need to know how much to knock back monsters by. Knockback. We can internally determine the range, or we can specify a range and have it not be tied to the image. I think that would be smarter. So we're going to have a range for this effect to deal damage from. A range, a knockback, upper level. We also have to know if it's friendly or not, because it could be coming from a monster, it could be coming from a player, which then determines whether or not it hits players or monsters. It's not going to have a movement speed, that wouldn't make sense, so we can get rid of that. We might add the ability to do color blending. It's not going to rotate, we can get rid of those. Additive blending, sure. Effect type is not required. What does this do again? Yeah, we're not going to have an ID in this, so we can get rid of that. That's not necessary. This is only used to check for, like, very specific collision stuff. So, finally, we need to add... oh, I forgot already. The friendly type. So, friendly type. Whether or not it's friendly or not. And by default, let's actually not have a default. So, we'll just set this right here. Oops. If you had been developing an engine along the game, it would have taken at least 7 years. I mean, I basically had to build the game engine. I didn't have to build the graphics renderer though. But I did have to build all the game systems, so this is effectively a game engine. Like, if you went on my Git and downloaded my project, technically you can just use my project as an base engine for another action adventure RPG game. Like, because literally I don't provide the assets, so literally it's just a skeleton for an action adventure RPG game. Which was kind of something I was thinking about. Like, that would be funny if somebody made a version of my game that was just adjacent to it. I think that would be hilarious. It would be kind of cute. But the engine is always changing, so I don't think it would be smart to use it right now, when it's probably going to look a little different and hopefully be more usable in the future. Like, my intention is to use a lot of this code for a potential future sequel of the game. The only problem I foresee right now is that we want to incorporate local multiplayer. So, multiplayer, which means syncing becomes a problem, especially if it's not originally designed properly. So that's just a whole nother thing to think about. It's easier to build a networked game if your intention was to make it networked from the start, right? Rather than try to, like, pigeonhole it in later on. So this game was not designed for multiplayer. And there was a lot of clear design decisions that make that obvious. So the variables we have to store are range, the knockback, I'm gonna call this knockback amount. So we gotta store the range, the knockback amount, whether or not we're friendly. I think those are the only things unique to an effect. So with all those in mind, let's grab those guys real quick, and we'll go ahead and set them here. They can just be const. They're not going to change after being initialized. Like so. And then we have the skeleton for a ground slam effect, so now let's create a source file for it and implement. So I'll just start a new one, a new file. Although I should copy a previous effect because there are some overwritten variables that are useful. So I'll go ahead and copy the... Let me see. Fade in out effect. Oh, it doesn't come with like... I don't think it's necessary actually. I was thinking like for bullets, it comes with like an on hit function, which could be useful, but we don't have to really worry about that one. So we're just going to probably copy this and make a brand new ground slam effect file. But yeah, in theory, if I already had most of the engine for the game before I even started this project, I'm sure this would be like maybe a year-long project max. But I had to spend the first year and a half or so developing just like the basics, right? Building the combat system, the inventory system, the overworld map system. The UI is hand coded. That was terrible. That took at least a month just to make a UI system. Like, yeah, like none of these systems that are normally provided in like a game engine or through like additional plugins, I chose to just do by hand. So we're replacing fade in out effect with ground slam effect, which is why a lot of people do not recommend you know, use a framework or start from scratch if your goal is to actually release a game, because you're going to be spending a lot of time building all the systems and a custom game engine from the ground up, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing though, if you enjoy the experience, which I do, and you want to see, like, you want to know how everything works inside and out, and you don't want to just... If you're just trying to make a game, then this is probably not the route. This is probably not the play. But if you're trying to make a game engine that you then make a game with, and you potentially could optimize out and plan for the future with, then this could be the route to take. Like, there are arguments for both sides, right? You learn so much by making your own engines, but you have to be willing to take the time to make it for. Like, if you don't have the time, or you don't want to spend, you know, ages trying to make a game, then you probably don't want to start from scratch. That should just be like a pretty general, like, hopefully a statement that makes sense. I don't want to say obvious, because sometimes I don't think it's obvious. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna build a game engine from the ground up real quick. It's never real quick. There's a lot of complications that came with it. Pre-made engines are awful. I don't think that's true, because there are lots of games that are made with them, and there are people that are well versed in it and can use it very well. I don't think that statement is true, just in the sense of, I think you are, you know, just putting it into a bucket and saying, we don't use engines here. Like, I don't think that's fair, right? I don't think that's a fair statement. There are plenty of game engines that I do like using, and there are also game engines that I would like to try and use that I haven't gone to use yet, so... But choosing to make your own is also very respectable. Like, I feel like it's very unfair to just say, pre-made engines are horrible. It's like, wait, hold on. Hold on now. No instance of overload function. Oh, let me grab the actual constructor. I'm just staring at this. I'm like, what am I doing here? So yeah, we gotta grab this. Okay. I'm just gonna replace this completely. And we have to remove the defaults, of course, because they're already specified in the constructor. So what you're saying is that when I finish my pre-made engine, it will also be awful and over-engineered, right? Because technically, it is a pre-made engine like the others once it's finished. Now I'm just messing with your brain, but in my head, when somebody says pre-made engines are awful, it's a blanket statement, right? It's a generalization. So I don't think that I know you're probably just messing around, but I'm just giving you a hard time. Just food for thought, right? Okay, so we have to call the child constructor, which is effect somewhere. I'm just gonna go ahead and grab that real quick, delete all this other unnecessary secondary constructor mess, and then, yeah, we go from there. Yeah, like, you have to understand that most game engines are designed to be used for any type of game, right? Like, if you need to make a very specific kind of game, like, for my engine, it would be great for making an action-adventure, top-down, 2D, retro-style overworld RPG, right? If you're not trying to make that specific game, this engine is terrible, right? Because it doesn't do what you need it to do. So, yeah. I think that's fair. So what you really mean is, like, pre-made engines that are generalized. Generalized game engines are terrible. That's what you're trying to say. Which I think is fair. Sorry, I'm being pedantic for no reason. I'm just being silly. Okay. So position we pass, lifetime we pass, image file we provide. So we actually have to provide a second image file. Now this is interesting, because one of these is going to be for the foreground, the other is going to be for the background. So this actually creates a secondary visual effect at the same time. But the main effect, I guess, would be the hit effect, which, let's pull up our graphics and take a look at what that's supposed to be. So if we look at, I think it's just called ground slam stuff. Yeah. So we have attack back and attack front. So we're just going to call ground slam attack front.png. Bully. Amy bully. I just think it spawns fun discussion, so. I'm not trying to rage bait here, I promise. This is totally for the content. What if the particle is a quad shader? What's a quad shader? Oh, you mean like a rectangle shader? What if the particle is a quad shader? If I made it a shader, I would have to make a shader system. Cause yes, we have like a shader for the game, but it's like compiled at the beginning of the game. We don't really have, this engine doesn't really support shaders. Now the next version of Pixel Game Engine, which is currently in beta, actually does have proper shader support. Like you can load in shaders properly, switch contexts, like it's great. But this engine does not actually have support for that kind of thing. It literally just has one shader I loaded in. I'm using that for the rest of my game. Lol at file name warrior plus thief.cpp. Yeah, it's the warrior and thief. Come on, that's what the monster is called. It's the warrior thief. Yes. Yeah, it's just a funny C++ file name that just ends up happening. I'm like, does a plus sign work here? Okay, great. I'm gonna use a plus sign. It's letting me use a plus sign, so that's what I'm doing. But yeah, upper level. So also, I don't AI generate stuff, so I would have to learn that by hand anyways. Like, whatever effect I'm trying to do, I would have to, like, spend time actually figuring out what the calculations would be, how I'm gonna modify the vertex shader, or even just figuring out which shader I'm trying to modify in the first place. Like, you could spend a whole day doing that. It's like a whole art in itself, which is insane. Okay, so size, we do pass that in, I think. Size, but it's a float. We have a VF2D, don't we? Yeah, we have a VF2D, so this is interesting. It wants a float here. Why do we have a VF2D for size? I'm gonna change that out, because that doesn't really make sense, right? And really it should be called scale, not size. I don't know why I always use size, thinking it's going to be like a pixel value, when really it's just supposed to be a scalar. Yeah, so I am aware of Shader Toy, but I don't really have a use for it right now if I can't actually implement them, so yeah. But maybe someday it'll be fun to experiment. Fade out right here, and then speed. Okay, so there is no speed for this thing, so I'm just gonna blank it out. And then color. So blend color, pass. Rotation is left as a default. So all these are optional, but we do have the additional blending, the additive blending parameter, so I will pass that on. And that pretty much initializes the effect constructor. So now, what is it complaining about here? It says no initializer for these. Oh, right, we have to initialize our other variables now. So we have range for range. I just literally copy pasted the names, so we're good. And then, let me see, what else? I mean, it'll tell me. I was kind of hoping it would just pop up, but I guess that's never been a feature. That would be nice if I could type comma and it's like, oh, here's the rest of your member variables you have not initialized yet. But I guess that could be too noisy. And then friendly. So friendly is friendly. And then that's all of our const member variables set. So then we can work on the meat of it, the update. Also, this doesn't have a draw function. It's just gonna use the default. Wait, we do need a draw function. We have to draw the other piece of this. So there is a foreground effect that we have to draw too. So when we make this effect, we're actually making another effect. So we're gonna need just a general effect. This is the foreground. And we'll initialize it at the exact same time inside the constructor. I don't think it should be const. I guess it could be, but we have to update the fade out. I guess it could fade out with this ground slam. So maybe we don't have to do anything. Let me think. I'm gonna try const, but I don't know if we're gonna have to switch that over. Well, we'll find out in a minute. Because in my head, I'm like, something's gonna complain that we need to pass it in as non-const, and then we're gonna be in trouble. So, foreground. Let's go ahead and make this effect as well. So we have pause. Custom is better. You know what specific game you would need for your game, and you choose what engine fits best for your needs, and you develop based on them. So, I mean, that brings back my original drawback to making your own engine, right? How much time are you willing to spend making your own engine for this game? It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. Like, there's a reason this game took like a little over 3 years to build. It's not because I spent 3 years just like relaxing and taking my time. This game, I'd imagine if you had a game engine, if like I started this project with this like engine, most of the stuff I needed for the engine already set up, it probably would have taken less than a year to actually make this game, because it would just be add content, add content, add content, all done, right? Like the only thing that's custom is like the AI systems, which is like, okay, we can implement that. The custom monster AI behaviors and the custom abilities. That doesn't really like, since it's all just content at that point, you don't have to worry about all the like features of an engine. So it's like, in a realistic sense, like as a game dev, do you want to spend the first 1, 2, 3 years of your game dev cycle building the thing that's going to build what you actually want to make, right? There's a lot of game developers and designers that either don't have the coding experience or don't want to spend that time working on that. They find like the game development portion to be more fun rather than strictly coding an engine, right? Like, you're not coding the game when you're coding the engine. You're coding the stuff to make a game. So, yeah. And yeah, like, if I had to make, like, a full 3D engine with, like, full shader compatibility, like asset management, like project management, from scratch, and make it good, like, I could easily see myself taking 10 years to do a project like that by myself. Right? I mean, I just think to, like, the engine that the Cherno was making. Like, he's been working on that thing for forever, and he has a small team backing him up. Like, it is no small feat. Now, granted, they're not, you know, they're not doing it off of, like, investor money or anything, but it's just in free time. But still, that just shows the monumental requirements that need to go into a project of that scope. But of course, the trade-off is if you have fun developing an engine and programming, maybe engine development is for you. Developing a custom engine for your game is for you, right? So yes, I think we agree. And I think that's a really key point to bring up when people ask, like, oh, what engine should I use? Or should I make my own? Or should I use a framework, right? That's a very important question to ask, because you could easily be doubling, tripling, quadrupling development time depending on those decisions. Okay, I want to use a float here. It's gonna be the same size. Like, these two images are supposed to go hand in hand. Yeah, they're both the same size. So I'm gonna make the scale be the exact same thing. And then fade out is the same. Speed is the same. Like, all these variables can just be replicated or duplicated. Color, no rotation speed, and additive blending. And that's everything in there. So we're like initializing a new effect in the effect. I think we also have to call the function to actually add the effect to the game. So game, which means we have to bring in the game pointer. We already have it. Add effect. Right here. So that means the effect we're generating here is not actually the effect we want. So we need to be storing an effect ref to our foreground here. That's a new class we made a while back. This is gonna be an effect types. I guess this should be an effect ref, like pointer? Let me think about that. No. Can we include the effect ref header in here? Is that safe? I don't even know, because I feel like I shouldn't need to include effect types for the effect ref class. Let me see. But doesn't effect.h include effect types? It does. So this is circular, which means effect ref has to come out into its own header file, because we cannot do a circular ref here. So the effect ref class is stored in this header file just down here. So we need to move it, because it now has a new dependency. It apparently also uses this effect data using, so we have to bring that along with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and go here now, and we're gonna make a new header file to split up our class. Call this effectref.h. I can't forward declare it if it's a normal, whatchamacallit. If it's a full size, like, if I'm initializing the struct with the data type, then I can't forward declare. Because the size of the class has to be known in advance. If I forward declare, then it will not be able to know what the size of this class is to initialize it properly. So the only way you're allowed to forward declare is if you use a raw pointer or a reference. And unfortunately, I cannot initialize it here because I have to call add effect first to generate it. So I can't directly set the reference, and I don't really want to use a pointer here. I just want to use it as a managed object. That way when ground slam effect dies, this dies at the same time. So moving effect ref to its own header file would be the best choice here. Effect manager is in effect.h, which is fine. We should be able to include that with no issue. Right? It is very liberating. Like, I think it's just like an achievement of itself to be like, hey, I built this engine and I built everything from scratch. That's pretty cool. Like, I think that's awesome. By doing this though, I do have to include effect ref in, because I noticed there's a unit testing flag here, which means at some point I've used one of these. So I assume we have to modify effect test now to include that file, because it probably uses it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and include it here. Include effect ref, like so. Okay. So that should be good. Now, I do know in effect, we do return like an effect ref when we make an effect. So that's probably on the other side for the effect manager. So we probably have to now include effect ref in this source file. Because yes, it doesn't know what effect data is. And oh, it's literally just effect data. But anyway, that's now in the effect ref header. So swapping it to that should take care of those errors. And we'll probably find one other place, like add effect, which I know is in Adventures in Lestoria, probably has an error now because it doesn't know what, yeah, it probably doesn't know what an effect ref is or effect data. So we need to do the same thing and include that in here as well. Effect. I don't see it. It must be like a transitive include, but let's go ahead and just include effect ref. That way it knows. And that should be fine now. At least I hope it's fine. It looks like it's still complaining. Effect type. Oh, let's look in the side real quick. So on this side, it probably doesn't know what it is because it, yeah, we would have to include it here. Which, let me see. Effect type, that comes from effect type, so that's fine. But effect data is a using that comes from, wait a second. This is part of effect manager, which is from effect, right? That's why effect ref needs that. That's why effect ref needs to include effect.h, is because to create this using, it needs to know that that is a thing. So this is where a forward declaration works, because it's a reference wrapper, which it only cares about the size of the reference wrapper. The data inside doesn't matter. At least in theory. So let's see what happens. It might complain, which I don't know if that means we're gonna have to also split up this using. That would be very dumb, but I hope we don't have to, because this might cause a circular reference if effect happens to reference something from Adventures in Lestoria, which so far it looks like we're safe, but again, it's very hard to tell due to how many includes we have. But I think we're safe. I hope we're safe. Yeah, I think we're in the clear. It's hard to tell. I'm just looking at the headers that I know are very busy to see if we end up with some kind of circular include. I think we're good. It's very hard to tell with the project of this size, right? But once we compile, we'll see. Alright, what else do we have to do? So I guess we're at the point where we can compile. It's just we haven't done anything with the effects yet. So instead of, let's call game add effect, because we have to add it when we create this thing. And then we get to set the effect ref, because it's going to return something, right? So I think we called it foreground. So we just said foreground equal to the return value of this. And the effect we're adding is, it actually was the thing I typed out completely. So we're going to grab all of this, and we're just going to put it in as the constructor for it, like so. So it's supposed to be, if IntelliSense will behave, please. Yeah, it's just supposed to be a const t effect, so we're just going to pass in an effect here. like so. And then we have back. So this one is supposed to be in the background, not the foreground. Also, by the way, the effects in the background do look a little weird in game now, so I do want to investigate that. And we'll probably do that at some point. Because I noticed we were having issues, especially with this effect, because it's a background effect layered behind a foreground effect, and it just doesn't look right. And I need to figure out why it's doing that. To call effect update in our overwritten function? Why does it say update? In most cases, call effect update in your overwritten function. Did I not define this? Ground slam effect. Wait. What is this? Ground slam effect? I have another ground slam effect? Since when? Is it a header? What? Ground slam effect. What is this? Oh. I think I did a find and replace. Right? That has to be what this is. Okay, I freaked out for a second. I was very worried. I'm like, wait a second, something's not right. Okay. That was a little scary. Okay, so effect ref. Argument list is missing. Did we not include it here? Okay, so we have to include it in this effect types header. Wait a second. Effect types. So effect include, hold on. Now we gotta look at this again, because I'm a little confused. So effect includes effect types. Effect types wants to include effect ref. Effect ref wants to include effect. So this means the effect manager has to be its own class too, because this link doesn't work right now. So we need to move effect manager out as well, because we're just creating a triplet of circular includes now. So this needs to be another header file called effect manager. This is what ends up happening a lot of times when you try to put multiple classes in one header file. You end up realizing, oh shoot, like the dependencies aren't going to work out. Like certain things depend on certain other things, right? So including effect T here should be fine. Effect types. Let's see what else are we good? And then effect types includes effect types is going to include effect ref, which will fix that part, right? So then, yes. So this needs to include effect ref. So effect types includes effect ref, which should resolve this. Wait, does this not get initialized proper? Oh, we need a template list. It's an effect ref of an effect. Just a bog standard effect. So I think, because this is... Visual Studio does this when there's it's transitively included. So are we good now? Or is this still unknown? Well, I guess before it wasn't even being used, right? Okay, so now we're okay. Forward declaration is unavoidable. No, you just have to actually separate out the classes, right? Because... Okay, well, I'll explain it this way. If you're, if you design a system, right, and things rely on other things, like they like link to each other, they depend on one another, then you have two options, right? Either one has to initialize the other, which means one is going to store things like create other things on the heap, or you have to like I don't think uncouple is the word, but you have to redesign it so that they don't depend on each other, or how they get initialized is, I'm sure there's like an actual term for this. I have to describe it kind of funny because I'm not exactly sure what this is called, but I'm sure there's a term for it. But basically, the dependencies you made for one thing are are like mixed with the dependencies of another when they need to be separated in such a way so that they aren't relying on each other. Like that reliance can be removed. Dependencies, right? Like if you have to deal with that with like circular references like that and have to forward declare, then it should be possible to separate it in theory. But an easy solution as well is to forward declare. I would like to not forward declare because then I really don't want to allocate things on the heap. That's really what I'm trying to avoid, right? Especially with effect things, because these are like particle effects. I want to avoid the heap as much as I possibly can in every sense of it, because I really can't afford to lose more performance at this time. Because this has to happen live. Like, this just gets created on the spot. Sure, it only happens one time, but that one time is going to keep occurring, and it's like, what if I do this in a couple more places? Because this is forward declared, right? So every time I need to rely on this thing, I'm going to be allocating on the heap somehow. I just, like, have accepted that cost. So I have to be really careful if I choose to forward declare and allocate things on the heap. In this case, we can detangle it. At least we should be able to, so that's what I'm trying to accomplish right now. So we have effect types.h, which includes effect ref. Effect ref no longer needs to rely on anything. It's just completely independent, right? Let me see. Okay, it does have effect data here, so it needs to include effect manager. So why does this need effect ref? This needs effect ref because it needs to know what this object is. Effect ref needs to know effect manager. Effect manager wants to know what an effect type is. But these are effect type, are these references? So we have standard optional, right? We have a reference. So reference, optional, reference. Well, these are effects. So are we good then? Like, we're good in the sense of, let me see. So effect data is itself, like effect data is in here. So we can forward declare in this case, right? Because this doesn't need to depend on effect types. Class effect T. And then effect data is in here, so these are taken care of. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. What is effect? Where does this come from? Is this from game? Oh, this is probably in defines, which is fine. We can include that. Include defines. And then include effect limit. I guess it's just built in. We don't even have to... It's just like... It's just a macro defined in defines. Yes. Okay. So that leaves us with effects, which effects are in effect.h, and effect.h relies on what? Effect types. So effect types are these guys. Okay, let's see. So this effect data thing, why do we have this? I guess I need to figure out why this is a thing, right? So this is a struct. So in order to delink this, I have to get the struct into a different place too. Can I even do that? Because, like, it needs to be inside effect manager, right? Does that mean it just has to be its own class, all on its own? I think that's what it has to be, and then I can pull it out. Then this no longer relies on effect manager. And then I can actually include effect ref in here, which relies on effect, right? No. Then it relies on effect data, and this relies on effect data, so those two share a dependency. And that fixes itself. Okay, so this is the problem. This effect data thing has been the problem this whole time. Okay, so I need to make one more header. So this is effect data. And that can go in here. I also need to include these guys. Ideally, I put the license in every file, just to keep everything portable. It's just sometimes I get in development mode and then I have to go back later. So now affect data is just one include away, and it doesn't rely on anything else. Affect data should be standalone. Where's affect data? Because eventually you can drill out to the point where you're just using like primitive types, right? That's the hope, is that like eventually you'll end up with things that don't rely on dependencies of others. So this requires effect types. Wait. So effect types requires effect ref. Effect ref no longer requires effect manager, just requires effect data. So indirectly, effect data still requires or still includes effect ref if we include effect T. Right? Yeah. So do I have to redesign this then? Let me see. So it has an optional. Well, let me include optional first of all. What is it called? What are you called? Maybe like... I feel like it starts with a V. For some reason, I'm reaching for V. Optional is a value that might not necessarily have a value yet, so... like, it can be empty, or it can contain an object, whatever the template object type is. So, like if you think of like a pointer, right? A pointer can be a null pointer, or it can actually be a value. Although technically null pointer is 0, but in most cases, but same idea. It is optional. Oh, IntelliSense was just catching up, right? Okay, so we're good here because we use an effect tref, and optional doesn't care about the type internally. At least it shouldn't, because the other byte is literally just the... Actually, I don't know. It might actually store the object in here, which might mean I need to include it. Well, we'll see. I think it's going to error out. Yeah, it's going to complain. So this is required, which means we probably have to redesign effect types, because it seems to be giving us the most friction, considering how much is in here. Like, let me see. So this is supposed to be like a gigantic monolith of types. I guess what I can do is class ground slam effect can just go in its own header, because then ground slam effect is the only thing that needs effect ref. Everything else from effect data comes from effect types. It doesn't care about. It just wants an effect T, right? And that's in here. So the fact, wait, is effect T in here? Effect T is just effect type, right? I think it's like an alias. Wait. Oh. Wait, no, that's the forward declare. Wait. Oh, effect T is the variant, and that's declared up in... Oh, is it up here? Oh, shoot. Okay, so actually, I was wrong. So effect, it's not effect types, we just include effect for effect T. Okay, so that was my confusion this whole time. I thought effect T was in effect types. That's kind of a confusing naming convention. But effect T is the variant with all the types in it. So yeah, that changes things. So effect requires effect types, right? Effect types, effect H requires effect types because that defines all the actual things. So do we still have that problem then? Right? We have to move... So effect T has to stay in here because it relies on all this, which means ground slam effect has to go in its own header file. But if I do that, I'm going to be including ground slam effect, which includes effect or effect ref, right? And effect ref wants effect data. Effect data wants effect. All right. We're trying to clean this up, but I need to figure out... I think I have to re-implement, like... So an effect ref... Let me think about this a little more. I'm trying to think... Should we... Let me see. Oh! Hold on. Okay. I just realized this is inline. That could also be a problem. Sometimes inlining screws up everything. Let me see. If we don't inline, what happens? So, as we can see, the dependency on effect data is due to initializing these inside of these functions, but there is no member function that actually requires effect data. In theory, effect ref doesn't need to rely on effect data. It's just because these are inlined right now, they are. So that's usually a gotcha that I didn't realize, is we need to put the actual implementation in its own CPP file, because that way the effect data class gets included in a source file, which means the circular header dependency goes away. I didn't even catch that. So every time, so this happens like, I'm pretty sure this has happened at least 50 times in my project. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try to inline it to save some time. It never works out. Every single time I inline something, I get screwed over, and I have to un-inline it anyways. So yeah, in this case, that's exactly what happened, is we inlined again. And that's the reason, because these standard arrays are just from effect data local. Like, these are local variables, they're not containers holding anything, so... Or they're not part of the class. They just get generated temporarily. So yeah, that's an oopsie. So we get to get rid of all this junk. Technically, this one can stay inlined, but I'm just branching everything out now. That's a template. That does have to stay in there, though. Which is fine, because... Is it fine, actually? Hold on, it's a template. I have to think about that one for a second. Oh, the whole class is... Wait, the whole class is a template. Oh, oh shoot, the whole class is a template? Wait, how does this work then? That throws a wrench in this plan. Because technically these are created... These template classes are then generated, and they will always depend on effect data. So the effect data is really the issue here. So... Okay, well, there goes that plan, because it's a template class, so it needs to stay in a header, otherwise it's not going to be defined in other compilation units, which means we basically just lose the whole point of using a template in the first place. And we're deeply committed at this point. So here's effect data. It needs to hold an effect T. We already know effect T is not in effect types, though. It's an effect, but it's based on all these types here. Do we have to necessarily know? Yes, we do, because the variant is based on the size of these types. So variant requires that all these are defined already. Okay, so if this is a template, we just have to say that wherever we're including this, we also include effect data at the same time. I guess that's what we would have to do, right? Effectively. Because it's gonna look like this, by the way. Like, technically, this is valid code at this point, because this is just a template. It hasn't been, like, generated yet. This is just theoretical code that will be generated. It technically compiles. So... the only caveat is if I don't have effect data included, then this template class won't be compiled. So I wish there was a way where I can always include effect data when it's needed, but I don't have to include it right now because it causes that circular dependency, maybe? But then again, see, this is the confusing part, right? It's like... So but we end up with the same problem, because if I include effect ref here, then I also have to include effect manager, because I just said we're effect data, right? So include both of these. This needs to know what an effect is. Still ends up in a so the same problem still occurs, right? Because the only way to generate a proper effect ref class is by also including effect data. Oh yeah, I very liberally use STL. It is everywhere in my code. Partially by choice, because I want to, like, learn, right? I want to learn how to use these things. So yeah, that's kind of how we ended up in this situation in the first place. So I have to figure out something has to give, right? Like this has to, in my head, I'm like, this ground slam should not be managing this effect ref. Like, why do we need this here? Why are we storing this here, right? Let's say in theory we needed this object. Why do we need it? Let's go back to ground slam effect real quick. I can create it outside of here if I wanted to. I could also create it inside of here and not store it. Like, why would we store it? It's purely visual, right? Just create it. So maybe I was doing all that for basically nothing. So let's backtrack a little bit. So I need to backtrack to the point where before I separated everything. So let's take a look at these files. They're all effect related. And see where we're at. So basically I'm going to now undo. I already made too many other changes not related to this, so I need to now backtrack. So effect ref goes away. We can undo that. That's fine. This was an error with find and replace. Actually, I'm glad I looked here because that would have been problematic. Okay, effect manager can be placed back in here. That's fine. Effect data. So this is a new file, so we're gonna get rid of that. Just delete. And then effect manager is a new file, also delete. Yes. Effect ref is a new file. And then we have effect types. Okay. So in here, we can get rid of that include. Alright, what other changes? Ooh, that would have been bad. Yeah, undo that one. Yeah, I'm actually glad I'm reviewing this because the find and replace did a lot of damage that should not have. Okay. And then what? Entity? Oh wait, no, we're good. Oh, we do have to include this though. So that stays. Yes. So really the only change was that bottom part, that header. And then we're back. We should be back in good shape. I just need to get rid of all these. Let's close other tabs. We just have too much going on. Don't save any of those. Cool. Alright, we're back in business. We're back to where we were 30 minutes ago. So, sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes we might, like, overthink some code and realize we're doing something dumb for no reason. That does happen occasionally, and then we realize we ended up in a trap we don't even need to be in the first place. Okay, inherited member is not allowed. Yeah. We don't... Well, I think the idea was to draw it, but it's gonna draw it on its own, so we don't have to do anything special there. Let's try and build this project. But yeah, I've been using C++ for about 6 years now, so I've gotten very comfortable with all the C++, like, STL, the template language, and all of its functions. And there's still plenty I don't know either, so, like, it's just such a massive library of things to learn. Some of it is useful, some of it I just try out and I'm like, okay, this is pointless, or I can't use it, or I don't know how to use it. It's been a fun journey so far. And then base class is undefined. What? In effect types.h, the base class is undefined? Oh, I thought we changed it. We undid this. Come on. It just didn't take my change, really? That means the other one is messed up too, the black hole? Yeah. It's like, come on, I thought I undid these. Okay, rebuild. I don't use the AI at all. If I need help, I use a search engine. As in, like, usually I just use CppRef, right? That usually gets me 80 or 90% of the way there. If I'm really stuck, but I will go to search engine. Usually you'll see, like, when I search for something, like, let's say, how to use standard variant. like, viewers that have been around for a while will notice I very commonly just, if I was on Google, but yeah, you'll see I usually always just scroll past this thing. So I don't even look at it because I'm usually more interested in either what humans have to say or like Stack Overflow, right? Because that's usually a problem either related or gets me close and gives me like code examples or whatnot. And obviously AI can do that too. There's nothing stopping you from using it. It's just I've grown up in this environment and it is what I am comfortable with. So I haven't really adopted AI in any of my workflow. I don't really intend to actually use it for any coding. Sometimes it might be like decent as a search engine. Like I'm not against AI or anything, but I don't really have a use for it because a search engine does the same thing. It's just a little faster, I guess. But I'm usually not in a rush. Like I have plenty of time, so I'm usually very chill. I'm usually not in a rush to be like, oh, I need to solve this right now. I have to get back on track. I'm losing time. Like, that's not usually going through my head. Like, you just saw I just spent 30 minutes doing basically nothing, so. I have this issue where I'm over-reliant on ChatGPT. I can't code for crap aside from basic Python. Everything makes sense, but I rely too much on looking at the answer. And yeah, that is a very good point. It's very easy to fall in that trap of copy-paste, right? One thing that one piece of advice that I highly recommend that I heard from JavidX9, he's the one that created the framework for this game, OLC Pixel Game Engine. He says that even if you find code online, do not highlight and copy paste. If you are going to use any code you find online, even like from Stack Overflow or anywhere, you need to type every bit of it out. And the reason for that is to get your brain to like actively look at what you're typing and start to wonder and think like, okay, what is this actually for? Maybe I'm just typing out exactly what it says, and it's like all these things have meaning. Every single character has meaning. Maybe it would be wise to become a little more curious and try to explore a little more about why. Like, for example, let's say I have this like underscore ENC syntax, right? I know you're talking about Python, but you can apply this to any language in general. Instead of just being like, okay, this code was written by, let's say, AI, and I have no clue what it does, instead, pull up like, actually, I opened the wrong one, but pull up like an example project, just like a blank source file, and play with it, right? That's like the best thing you can do. So I'm like, oh, what is this like, what is this ENC thing, right? So for C++, we have these things called custom operators. They kind of look like this, right? So like, if I were to just go look at the code that I wrote, I literally can see some kind of implementation for this. So now I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should try to implement it and play with it, right? I might do something like this. And so I'll be like, okay, there's an error here. Why is there an error here? It says explicit type is missing. If I can figure out what that means, then that would be great. But sometimes you might be like, what the heck does that mean, right? So then you go searching for that. Maybe you ask the AI for help. AI, I think, is good for answering questions, but you can also Google search it, right? Once you figure out what to do, it's like, oh, I forgot you need a return type. That's what it means. It's a function that requires a return type. You're like, okay, error solved. What does all this mean, right? Like, well, this is a const char star. This is a size t. If you know what these are, then you might be able to intuit something you have to do with them. Maybe like, I don't know what it does, but maybe I'll just return key. I don't know what key is supposed to be, but let's experiment, right? And then maybe in my creation code, I'll try and use it. So I'll be like, well, I saw in the code they used some kind of string, like hello underscore ENC. That's like a code example that I saw, right? And maybe I'll try to compile this and it'll fail because it's just a standalone string. I'll be like, oh, maybe it's supposed to be outside instead of inside. Okay. Well, that's fine. That's exactly how it was used in code. So I might actually try and put a breakpoint here and debug it. And so I might get an error, as you can see, that says invalid literal suffix, operator ENC not found. So it's like, oh, well, I wonder why that is. Well, maybe it's below here, or it's not, yeah, like it's not available, right? Maybe I'll put it above. Sounds silly, right? Oh look, it compiles now. And then we look, okay, do we hit a breakpoint? Well, I think I deleted the breakpoint by accident, but let me restart. Okay, breakpoint. I hit a breakpoint, right? So let's step into the code, our debugger, and see what this is. So key, we can look at the value of key, or we can try to look at the value of key if this will pop up. Will this pop up? Debugger, you want to work? Are we in like release mode? No. Okay, well, let's do, where are my watches? Let's pull up a watch, like debug, Windows watches, right? Let's pull up a watch window and let's just add in key, because apparently it doesn't pop up. So interestingly, this doesn't actually like get populated, but we can see it returns something. So it says operator ENC will return true. So it's like, okay, well, that means key must be a non-zero value because it's not a number, right? But I still want to know what key is, so maybe instead I'll try to print it out, right? And in theory, if you didn't know how to print, then this would be the opportunity to learn how to print something on screen. Like, okay, maybe if I couldn't get it to work that way, I would try this way. So again, breakpoint, I'm just gonna skip this line and then look at what the console output was. The console output says it was hello. So intuitively, I could think, okay, whatever I put in here, that's what key is going to give me. This is just from other stuff I had in this project. And so from there, you can start experimenting with it and being like, well, if I know that this returns like a boolean of true, maybe I can use this for something a little more specific. Like maybe it will actually return a converted string. So maybe ENC could stand for like encode or something. And then instead we do some string manipulation. Maybe we capitalize like the first letter and return it, right? So we can do like standard string. Let's do key 0 to upper. And then we can go ahead and, oh, new string is standard string or to upper, which I think accepts the character from int to char. Oh, it wants to be an int, which is fascinating. That's probably not a good function to use for that. Narrowing conversion from int to char. Okay, well, I changed it, so I don't know what it's complaining about now. And then you can be like, okay, what about the rest, right? Just print out key 1. It should end with like a null terminator, so you can be like, let me see. Let me think. How would you convert this in C++? It would be like standard string key. We could start with 1 and see what happens. Like it would be like key plus 1, right? We can advance the pointer by 1. And technically initialize a new string that way. I don't know if that's how you perform arithmetic on a pointer. I kind of forget, right? But, let me convert this to a string as well, because it's like not a string right now. God. Anyways, like you might just... My point being is that you would probably just start like messing around with stuff, right? And you might learn something from just like constantly trying to do that. And that's fun. Let me see what this actually says, because I'm like, why doesn't this compile? This is fascinating. So, let me see. It's just like, what do you mean into char? Does it want to be a char? Like, is that what it's saying? Into char. I'm so confused. Oh, to upper returns an int. You have to cast this to a char. Okay, now I just feel silly. Anyways, I think char plus a string is valid, right? And then you can return new string. So we could simplify this further and just say, this is how we would capitalize the first letter, right? That's just one theoretical way. It's probably very silly and stupid, but in theory, that is a way to do it. Let me just do this one more time. And if we just go to the next line, now it's... Oh wait, it was already capitalized. I feel dumb now. H. Right? Lowercase h. It's like... Now it returns hello with the capital H. So essentially we just made a custom operator that capitalizes the first letter. But yes. So, I guess my point being, and what I just demonstrated, was that, like, you can take some concept, and, like, I didn't even know... I kind of knew 2-upper was a thing, but clearly I've never used it before, so that was a cool experiment. But, yeah, like, you can take something, and you kind of go along with it and mess with it. You toy with it, you create errors, you make a mess, you try and see what's possible. Like, there's nothing saying you have to be perfect, but the only way to learn is to make mistakes and try and figure things out on your own. You're not going to learn if you just keep writing what something tells you to write, right? You're probably hitting that constructor by accident because it takes an int. Wait, really? Let me see. I'm a little confused. Wait. Basic string, count, char, ch, size type. This one? Wait, I'm confused about what constructor you're talking about. Sorry. I must have missed some context. Kyle says, my strategy is AI teaches me based on code. I type every code the AI has written and questions come in my mind and I say AI explain the code to me. Yeah, like I said, if you don't know what the AI has given you, you can prompt it with more questions, or you can just explore with search engine. To me, the AI is basically just a faster search engine, right? It will find things for you and format data consistently for you and hopefully give you an answer that's actually true, because there is that catch, right? Every once in a while, or maybe sometimes often, sadly, the AI may spit out something that you really like, either bad advice or just something that's actually incorrect, right? There's always that risk too, but that's why I just kind of rely on resources, because it's like, at least I know, like, obviously the author could always be wrong, but at the very least, it's a source that somebody took the time to write up. Unless it's an AI-generated source, which is now also a thing to watch out for, which is really annoying. It's like, we're just going in this loop of AI is starting to appear everywhere in everything. Okay, so yeah, I did a find and replace, and this resulted in some ugly stuff happening, so I need to undo all this. Undo this one, please. And we have to undo this one. Okay. Keep rebuilding until we fix everything. A lot of sources AI gives you are also... That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to be really careful nowadays. It's even harder to get credible sources than it used to be. Which is also why I'm like, if you can find documentation, documentation's your best bet. I know CPP ref is very hard to parse. If you're learning particularly C++, Learn CPP is a great reference. That's a little more like textbook format versus just straight up like, here's all the functions, I'm going to spit out a bunch of complex words and you better know what the heck this language does. A reference is a little more mean in that regard, but finding a credible site that gives you like tutorials is very helpful, because that way at least you can go through and read. And this is a fantastic resource for anybody learning C++. I assume there are resources similar for other languages, like people have taken the time to write, you know, other credible sources for people to learn their language from. It does. Oh wait, you said which does it choose? It kind of does everything. So one cool thing the author does is they constantly revise everything. You can see they add in this updated tag whenever they do new updates. So this is like live. They constantly update this stuff. You can even see the latest changes page that just shows what articles they change over time. I would say it incorporates even new topics in 23 and even, I think, starting to make sections for 26. I could be wrong. Yes, okay, up to 23, right? So if you're just curious about like, hey, I want to know what the latest features of a certain update is, they'll be like, okay, here's your introduction, here's your like summary of what the new update provides, right? And from there, they try to link the related articles. So that's pretty awesome. This site is very good. Like, it's just a fantastic resource. I can't recommend it enough for anybody trying to learn C++. Books are good too, yeah. Of course, there's the argument that some authors might be trying to generate their book content with AI now too, so just have to be on the watch for that. But AIs are a little better because usually it's like, at least if you get physical stuff, right? Because it's a little harder to get stuff out there that is not credible, like printed. But obviously, history has shown books, sometimes authors of books make mistakes too. So it's just always going to be a factor, right? Like even humans make mistakes. And the funny part is, since AI is trained on humans and humans make mistakes, that means AI makes mistakes too. It's just the nature of it. Which I think is a hilarious irony that like it's gonna happen no matter what. Once again, I have to like, did I change this? Oh, I did. Cause wait, did I? Oh wow. Oh god. Oh god, no. We have to undo all this. I just need to undo this whole file. Okay, I'm understanding now. That's why some of these effect files were just like appearing in my Git changes, because they just got completely modified. I am understanding what I'm seeing now. It's called AI and human slop. Oh, that's why I've been hearing the term human slop, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I've like heard it a few times. I just assumed it was AI related, but I didn't understand what the implications were. So that actually makes sense. Okay, undo this. And we're undoing this line. Yeah. Just a lot of random lines got affected by this find. I think I did find and replace on the whole project. I meant to do in just that document, so I kind of screwed up by doing that. But we're almost fixed. Auto cannot be deduced. That's kind of weird, right? Oh, of course, this is supposed to be the black hole effect. That's why. Of course, of course. Okay. Oh. Effect ref.cpp is not a thing. It shouldn't be a thing. I need to delete that. Okay. Should be good. But yeah, fun discussion. But that's all I can really recommend. Like, I come from an era where artificial intelligence was never an option. So I basically had to rely on just trial and error. Sit there for hours. Your code will break. It's not gonna work. It maybe never works for an entire day. You might have to like sleep on code sometimes and come back to it in the morning, and maybe you have an epiphany, or at least the motivation to try it again. Try throwing your head at the problem again, right? Like, that's just how it always was. Like, you didn't really get a choice. Okay, so I mean it compiles, but we're not quite done yet, because we still have to implement all the Ground Slam update stuff. I'm looking at the time here. I think we have enough to get this successfully moved over. So the next thing to do is we have to go to the player class again, and we're going to grab all the code related to Ground Slam stuff, and we're going to move it into the update function of that Ground Slam effect. So let's go to the update function. Let's go to where Ground Slam stuff is happening. And basically, most of this code, anything not player specific, is now going to go into the Ground Slam update. I'm also going to move that sound effect piece of code, so let's just go ahead and paste this in here and move this guy into here. And then we'll start fixing this up. So what is numb, first of all? That's a very vague... I don't actually know what numb is. It doesn't look like it's used. What? Numb. Alright, I'm gonna delete it then. Ground Slam visual range. So there is stuff used here for Ground Slam visual range, which is interesting. Where did this value come from? Oh, it's literally right here. So I think these initializer values might be staying outside. Let me think about that for a second. Because these variables would have to come from elsewhere. Like, the amount of damage and such is going to be variable. Like, we have to actually supply that with the effect. So this thing actually does damage, which I forgot about too. So we have to also pass in how much damage this thing is supposed to do. So let's go ahead and add that as a new argument for the function. I think it goes before range, yes. Okay. So damage needs to be stored as damage. And we'll make a new member variable called damage down here. Okay, so constructor is good again. So these three variables, visual range, range, and damage. We have damage now. So visual range. So basically we have separated what the visuals look like size-wise versus what the actual size is, which affects the scaling. So that's interesting because we do pass in the scale here. So I would imagine we just provide that instead. Like maybe instead of a scale, we provide a radius, and then we convert that radius using code. That's my idea, at least. But if the scale is visually going to be different, then we're going to provide that using the scale factor, so we don't really need this here. The range itself is provided here, and then the damage is provided here. So we have everything we need, essentially, to make this work. We just have to change this up a little bit. So we are going to have temporary variables that represent these values. Just, we have to supply them from a different location. So visual range, again, will be based on... We're going to change it to represent it as a scale, right? And then the actual range is called range. I think it's just called size. But size has two members, so we can choose X or Y. It'll be the same. We set both. And then the range is supposed to be range. And then damage is supposed to be damage. So if we have all these already, we don't need to do this, do we? Except maybe, let's see. So let's try and replace these. So size plus equals. So this is supposed to be, I think, a percentage. So it's gonna be like size times whatever the radius increase is versus the original. So based on the enchant, we have to do all these calculations outside. These wouldn't be done in here either. So I guess that's fair. Let me... Yeah, these stay out here. Good to know. So then we have... Which enemies get hurt? So we have a new function called game get targets in range. And it essentially does this, but without actually hurting them. Which... We do actually have to hurt them, so there is that. But we can also call... hurt... And the hurt function here is actually for a range, like a radius. So essentially, just, oh wait, it's right here, right? Game hurt. So we'll use that, and we would be iterating through all of them. I'm actually not going to have this temp here anymore. I'm just going to put it into here. Oops. Did I hit Control B by accident? Alright, cancel that. So... I'm just gonna move that into here. Ground sum range becomes size.x. Since it's supposed to be a pixel radius, we have to convert it from a scale to pixels. So we would do that by multiplying this by 24. Because presumably the image is in unit size. Oh, it's actually 64 by 64 per frame. So we would do multiplied by... So the radius would then be 64 if we're using that as the... No, wait, the radius is the radius. That's just the visual, right? So, range? Range. Okay. Ground sum damage is just damage. What is this supposed to be? That is supposed to be the Z. Okay. So that one's fine. So, this is interesting. We were only expecting monsters before, but now we can expect either monsters or players. The hurt type is going to be adjusted based on whether it's friendly or not. So if the friendly flag is on, we want to be hurting monsters, because this was generated by a friendly target. Otherwise, we're only hurting players. This is also no longer a player ability if it's non-friendly. So we only specified the hurt flag or player ability flag if the hurt type is player. So one way we could do this, I think, is to... because player is 1 and monster is 2. Like, numerically speaking, we do this based on whether friendly is true or not. So friendly is a boolean, right? So technically, if we multiply these together, it would work. Oh, but we would have to convert this to like a number, which is fine. Oh, it's actually an enum class. It looks like I can't do that. I wonder if it's underlying as a number though. 2 underlying. I think that's how that works. And then it turns into what? Oh, it's represented as a boolean? Oh, that's... okay. Well, that doesn't help me then. But I mean, at the same time, I could also just cast it to a number afterwards, because converting a boolean to an int results in a number. Right? Does that one work? Incompatible with hurt flag. Wait, it's still considered a... that's weird. It says it's supposed to return a boolean. How does it still know it's a friendly type? Does it do like static? Hold on. What kind of magic? Oh, it's static casting. Okay. I mean, if it's static casting it, then yeah, the compiler won't let me do this. Unless I force it. I'm not gonna force it. I was just trying to make something easy. So anyways, we'll just do this. Hurt flag or note flag? None. Okay. So with that out of the way, we get to look at this now. Has enchant slam shock. This can only happen for if the caster was a player. So this would cause a stun. So what we could do is we can add a stun parameter somewhere up here to handle that. Now, as of late, I think last time I worked on effects, there was a recommendation to make like a configuration type just for if you have like a bunch of stuff. Like, for example, we look at the freeze ground effect, it has a bunch of settings in it, right? If we're gonna have a lot of different things going on, we probably want to just make a struct that holds all those settings in one place, and then just specify them that way. That would be smarter. So I think we're gonna go that route, where we just make a settings object, and then we pass all the settings in that way. So some of the settings would be like, again, range is 1. The knockback amount would be another. Damage. And friendly type. Like, we can just compact all these down. And effectively it would be the same thing as doing all this out here, but now they're all in one struct, so the constructor simplifies down a lot, and it just looks better, right? It just shrinks this down so there's less to worry about. I would even go as far as to name this scale thing properly. Like, we can provide some more proper names too, like the visual size or radius, right? I think that's a good way to name it. If I can type. So something like this just makes it a lot easier to manage when we have all these settings. It's not freeze ground settings anymore. Now it's called ground slam settings. It needs to be public though, because I'm gonna have to access this from outside the class. And then this gets passed in here, like so. Simplifies the constructor greatly, which is helpful. And makes it so I can easily add more stuff to it without clogging this up some more. I kind of forgot we were doing this. And then I don't have to type all these. I can simply say settings gets set to settings. It can remain const because it's not going to change after initially created. And now this allows me to add something like, okay, does it have the slam shock enchant? That would be important. Important information, right? Or we provide a stun amount. So we can just say either way. I think it makes more sense if we just say like pool has slam shock enchant. That's one thing we can do. Here, that's a get pause on... Okay, so that's gonna be the location of the effect itself. That'll just be pause. This one will also be pause. We'll be using the knockback amounts, and then playing the sound effect. So what sound effect to play? We should probably add a sound event string here. Sound effect event name. I'll just put sound effect name. No need to get all fancy. Alright. And we probably won't be able to finish this up today because we gotta rework a lot of things, but we can definitely get started on it. So we already moved this into here. So it's no longer a monster pointer. It could be a monster or a player. So we're gonna have to switch this up to be based on if... Oh, you know what? Actually, we can use our entity. Let's bring back in entity, right? So this is now target pointer to initialize an entity for us. Great, entities are back. They technically never went away. Alright. So why are these two separated? It's because this is checking for a less than or equal to 0.001. So basically, if you're directly on top of a monster, division says that if you divide by 0, you get infinity. So we don't want infinity. This is literally just infinity prevention. It does look like we clamped the knockback amount or use the maximum value, so that's good that we're clamping it. Although I find it... Okay, yeah, because we have to use the length, so length of a line, distance-wise. Yeah, entities! Yay! Okay, we're also going to have to include sound effect. That's just a thing. Include sound effect. What's going on here? No instance of ground sound effect matches the specified type. Did I miss something? I don't think so. Doesn't say it's implemented though, so that's concerning. Expected a open curly brace? No, we're setting... So this is improper somehow. Pause Z, lifetime, settings, upper level, fade out. Oh. Where'd scale... Oh yeah, scale got squished into the settings, that's why. Cool. Okay, so let's just substitute all these. So if has slam shock enchant, it'll be settings dot has slam... Wow, I can't type. Has slam shock enchant, then do stun on this particular entity. I don't know if we have it implemented for entities yet. We do not. Do we have a stun function for players? I feel like we don't. Yeah, we don't have a stun. So do we want to implement stun for players? I guess we have to. Although monsters will never have enchants, so technically it's impossible for monsters to stun players. But if we're going to implement it on one side, we might as well implement it on the other. Just in case, well, see, because then it relies on stun timer, so then what does that mean? We have to disable player input, the player can't perform abilities, like... The easiest way to make a stun work would be to disable all player input. Except for maybe, like, escape or something, like to open the pause menu. I don't know if that's a... Let me think if that's a good way to implement it. Because you basically aren't able to do anything as the player at that moment. Stun is not defined though, and it's never going to be used. So... maybe we'll just say it's not implemented for a player, but how do we notify that? Technically, this condition should never be reached for a monster. So we can basically say for an entity, or we can just do the check here. No, I would rather do it in here. I'd rather do the type checking in the place where it's naturally handled. So, what I mean is, for our stun function, which we're going to create an entity to be shared by both players and monsters, we're going to say that if we get a player pointer out of this, we're actually going to error out and just spit out that's unimplemented. That way we, as the developer, know if it ever gets run, it's going to be unimplemented. I wish I could make it be static analysis, like this code path will only be enabled if we go down that route. I wish I could do that. But then again, if we're only implementing it for one entity, why have an unimplemented side of it? I think we ran into this issue before. Like, we talked about how if we're not implementing it for both sides, we don't want to have code that does nothing that could potentially run in the future. Imagine if I was like, oh, we have a stun function, let me use it, and then like we patch something and don't even test it. And then on runtime, you get a runtime error because it's unimplemented. That would be bad. Or like, obviously it just doesn't stun because it's not implemented, right? So in this case, we would have to say if entity standard holds alternative of type monster pointer, then we will stun it. Oh wait, it would be, excuse me, it would be, yeah, that's correct. I could just use this, whatever. We'll do that. So entity, then we will convert it to it. So standard get monster pointer and perform its stun. So this will be entity, and since it's a pointer, we can do this. I think standard get will just return it directly, hopefully. Is it called standard get? It might not be called standard get, but we have to include, what is it called? We have to include variant in here, I think, for this to work. Although we have entity in here already, so it should be included. Let me see. Range is unidentified. Why? Oh, because we removed it. Right, it's now settings.range, so... Let's fix all these first. I think the errors below are just cascading. Settings friendly, settings friendly. Scale goes away, and then scale here gets passed on via settings dot visual radius divided by 64, because the whole image is 64 in size. Or is it 32 because it's a radius? So half of that. Well, usually if I do this, I do 64 divided by 2, just so I know it's a radius. If you had an event handler interface on entities, you could swap it out when an entity is stunned and it just ignores certain key presses while leaving menu keys in place. You could swap it if you had an event handler interface on entities. True. That would be a way to do it if that did exist. Types are entity. Oh, I have to do a entity.entity because I have to get the original pointer or the original variant, which it's inaccessible. We might as well just get target pointer then, right? Like I don't want to expose that. There's no reason to, so we're just gonna do that. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't. Much of my game engine is lacking event handlers. Mostly because I just don't traditionally think about designing it that way. So, unfortunately, that's not gonna work out. But if I did have one, that would be a way to go. For sure. Let's see here. So this is supposed to be based on position to the target pointer's position. So you can do entity get pause. And then the knockback amount will be replaced by settings.knockback_amount. Same with the one down here and over here. It looks like we also have knockback reduction, which I don't know what that is supposed to be. What is that? Knockback drop off per pixel of distance. Oh, that's fascinating. Okay. So that's just another variable to have. Where is... effect types? So we can just see, this is the nice thing about this though, we can just add onto it. So knockback reduction, and then in here this would be knockback reduction. What did I missed a semicolon. That would help. Okay, position, and then here should be entity get pause. Then we have knockback weight factor. Okay, so that's another one that we have to bring in. Knockback weight factor. Like so. Couple more conversions here to entity and then cause a knockback. And for the most part, we should have everything down. We just have to do the knockback function, which we know both player and monster have. So this one shouldn't be a problem of implementing real quick. You just grab it. Knockback with a velocity. You do some fancy physics stuff in there. That's always fun. Void. Entity knockback does call class function. Velocity. Knockback velocity. Okay. You know, I think I might be able to simplify this into like a macro. I notice I do this a lot, right? Like, these two are also the same, so you could probably make a macro that just says like, you could call it like create func or something and just say like spin followed by this, and it would do these 3 lines all together. That could be a way to go. Anyway, just little thoughts. Alright, we're missing something over here. Effect is not satisfied. It wants a VF2. Okay. Pause, lifetime, image file, upper level. Fade out. Did I delete that at some point? I think I took it out for scale and never replaced it. So that would make sense. This is supposed to be... Wait, I thought I did this. Did I accidentally delete it again or undid it or something? What? Visual radius, right? Divide by... Like, I literally just did this, so... I don't know what's going on, but that fixes... Oh, it's down here too. I see, I see. Okay, yeah. I forgot we do it twice. Which is like... Can I just, like... copy this? I don't think I have a copy, like a valid copy constructor, but I mean technically, right? If you could cast us to an effect, in theory you could, right? In theory. That is apparently allowed. Maybe. This seems very sus. Oh wait, it wouldn't be the same anyways. I have to change out the image file. But in theory, like, that would be what I would be going for. Anyways, I'm just gonna leave it as is. Because we might do something special with it later anyway. But the framework for this is set up, so that means next time we're gonna go ahead and implement the places where this is called, like in player. We have to now call under update in ground slam. Like, we have to basically populate all these, both for the player and for monsters, and then create the ground slam effect itself. And then after we've done that, we should be good to go. So yeah. We're not too far away from having ground slam done as well. It's just been a little more complicated because ground slam is like its own effect, and I decided I wanted to migrate it and have it be working for both players and monsters versus trying to implement it separately twice. Which again, this code is shared, so if one changes, so does the other, which is kind of nice. It's like relieving in the sense of I get to ensure that the behaviors remain the same when this code changes in the future. Because surely it will. I know me, I'm definitely going to be messing around with it in the future, right? So there's a very high chance that that condensing this code so that it's reusable in 2 places is going to work out. What was it complaining about? No matching token. Here? Here. 1, 2. Yeah. Those are fine. Here? I don't... Where does this point to? This point to ground slam... Oh, it's in ground slam effect. Wrong file. It would help to look at the right file. Constructor is fine. Did I miss this? No? Maybe? I think that other thing I did Maybe it caused... No matching token found. What do you mean? Oh, here. Okay, I see it. I see it. So this is currently matching with that for loop. It needs to not. This needs to end right here, which puts all of this inside of what? So where's this? Is this the if statement? It is. That's really weird. Okay, that's not right either. So this is supposed to be gone. Okay, so that explains it. That used to be curly braces. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Well, this has been fun. I will say that we were supposed to get through like all of Warrior today, but Ground Slam is taking its time. I promise tomorrow that we will definitely be done, because the other one is very simple. It's like create a bullet and shoot it. So it's like, that one will be an easy conversion. This one we basically like reworked an entire effect. So yeah, this will be a much easier conversion because we just shoot out a bullet. And luckily for bullets, we just get to immediately decide is it friendly or is it an enemy, and it hits the right thing. It literally just does it on its own. So bullets have a lot more built-in functionality for that, which makes them a lot easier to work with. And yeah, a lot of this code is player specific, so that's very easy to work with as well. So yeah, should be a very easy conversion tomorrow, and then at least Warrior will be done and we can start on Ranger. It looks like we finally built, compiled, so yay us. Ground Slime is not quite done yet, but I'll go ahead and do a mid commit just to get some stuff out of the way. Isolate Ground Slam into its own effect. What do we do in tests? Oh. Well, we literally don't need that. That'll just result in a compile error. Okay. So that's gone. So we shouldn't have to stage that anymore. And then... let's see... we did do monster attribute stuff in preparation. This was all in preparation for Ground Slam stuff, so that's great. And then prepped effect for implementation. Like literally we just have to do the actual like creation of it now, essentially. So this is release build 13575. Good progress today. I'm pretty happy about that. Yeah, thanks for hanging out. As always, it's been fun. I hope you all enjoyed. It's been a very interesting stream with both quite a bit of troubleshooting, a little bit of head, a little bit of brain teasers and head twisting with the effect or the header reference confusions, and then working on the implementation stuff. So that was fun. It's been a good day. But yeah, I think tomorrow I'll be busy, so we'll probably see you all on Thursday. If y'all are tuning in again. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.